You know what's exhausting? Wearing a mask so long you start believing it's your real face. The people who love you don't even know you. And worse, you don't even know you. So let me ask you, are you living or are you performing? I'll never forget the moment I laughed at a joke I didn't find funny. It was such a small thing, a passing comment, a casual chuckle, but something about it landed in me like a sharp, unexpected stone. It wasn't about the joke. It was about the pattern. I suddenly saw all the little ways I had been performing. I laughed because I wanted to belong. I agreed because I didn't want to upset anyone. I nodded because I didn't want to stand alone. And I realized this wasn't just one moment. This was my life. I had mastered the art of being likable. I had learned how to blend in, how to be easy to digest, how to keep the room comfortable, even if it meant I had to carry the weight of silence on my own chest. And I wore that like a badge, as if keeping people happy was proof of my worth. But it wasn't. It was evidence of my fear. The fear that if I ever stopped performing, if I ever set the mask down, there would be nothing left that anyone would want to stay for. There's a specific ache that comes from realizing you've been the one standing in your own way, that you've been starving your real self in the hope that people would feed the version of you you've presented. That's not living. That's bargaining. Psychologists call this self-alienation. When your life stops being a reflection of who you are and starts becoming a reflection of who you think people will accept. It's like living inside a glass box. People can see you, but they can't really reach you. And the thing about pretending for so long is that you lose track of who you were before you started the performance. You forget what you like. You second guess your own instincts. You wonder if you'd even recognize yourself without the masks. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed that night, staring at the wall, asking myself quietly, what would happen if I just told the truth? If I stopped laughing when things weren't funny? If I stopped saying yes when I meant no? If I stopped agreeing just to keep the waters calm? The answer wasn't clean. The answer wasn't easy. But it was honest. Some people would probably leave. Some people would be uncomfortable. Some people might not understand. But I would finally belong to me. And in that moment, I realized something that cut through me like light. You cannot be fully loved if you are only partially known. You can spend your life building connections to protect yourself, or you can build connections that actually see you. But you cannot do both. And maybe, just maybe, it's better to be rejected for who you truly are than to be loved for a version of yourself that you don't even recognize anymore. Because what's the point of belonging if you don't belong to yourself first? There's a strange kind of grief that comes when you start showing up as your real self and people slowly start stepping back. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not always a big fight or a door slamming shut. Sometimes it's just distance, sometimes it's silence where there used to be laughter. Sometimes it's text messages that stop getting answered, invitations that quietly stop coming, people who suddenly don't know how to hold space for you when you stop shrinking to fit them. And no one prepares you for that. No one tells you that choosing yourself will sometimes look like losing others. I had to learn that lesson in the loneliest way. When I stopped bending, when I stopped people-pleasing, when I started saying the hard truths out loud instead of swallowing them. I watched some relationships I thought were solid start to dissolve. Friends I had known for years became strangers. People who used to light up when I walked into a room suddenly looked at me like I was someone else. And maybe I was. It broke my heart. I wanted to chase them. I wanted to apologize for changing. I wanted to rewind time and go back to the version of me they liked, the version that didn't rock the boat, didn't ask for too much, didn't take up too much space. But here's the hard, beautiful, terrifying truth. If people only loved the version of you that was convenient for them, they didn't really love you. They loved their access to you. That's not connection. That's control. Psychologists talk about conditional acceptance. It's this unspoken agreement where you're accepted only if you keep meeting someone's expectations, only if you stay within the version of you they can manage, only if you don't grow past the role they've placed you in. I started to see that some people were not clapping for the real me. They were clapping for their version of me, the version that kept them comfortable, the version that was predictable, easy to love, easy to handle. And the moment I stepped out of that version, when I allowed myself to evolve, to ask for what I really needed, to stop performing, I could feel the distance grow. It was devastating. I won't sugarcoat that. But it was also the beginning of something sacred. I started to realize that some losses are not punishments. They're protections. Some doors don't close to hurt you, they close to guide you. There's this painful but freeing moment where you accept that losing people who loved your mask is not the same as losing people who loved your soul. The people who are meant to walk with you won't require you to shrink. They won't hand you a script and ask you to stick to it. They'll sit with you in your evolution, even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable. And when you start losing the wrong people, you make room for the right ones. The ones who say, I see you, all of you, even the parts you were scared to show, and I'm not going anywhere. The people you lose when you start being authentic were never really yours. And the ones who stay, they're worth everything. There's a very particular kind of exhaustion that no amount of rest can fix. It's not physical. It's not about being overworked or overwhelmed. It's the deep, soul-wearing fatigue that comes from living a double life. I didn't realize how heavy it had become until I caught myself rehearsing conversations in my head, not because I wanted to communicate clearly, but because I wanted to make sure I would say things in a way that wouldn't make anyone uncomfortable. I was editing my own feelings before they ever saw the light of day. I wasn't just showing up. I was calculating every version of myself that would be the easiest to accept. It's like living inside a house with mirrors instead of windows. You can see yourself from every angle, but you can't see out. You can't breathe. You can't feel the air. You're trapped, constantly watching yourself, performing, perfecting, managing your own image. I spent years showing one version of myself to the world, the polished, agreeable, predictable version, and another version buried deep inside me, one I didn't even fully know. And the longer I kept them separate, the more disconnected I became from my own life. There's actually a psychological term for this: cognitive dissonance. It's the unbearable tension that happens when your actions don't match your beliefs, when your words don't match your truth, when the life you're living doesn't feel like your own. You start questioning everything. Do I really like this? Did I say yes because I wanted to, or because I was afraid to say no? Do these people love me, or do they love the version of me I'm carefully handing them? That tension will crush you from the inside out. It's not sustainable. You can't carry that weight forever. But here's the terrifying thing about dropping the performance. You don't know what's on the other side. There's no guarantee that when you stop pretending, the people you love will stay. There's no promise that the life you've built on careful foundations won't start to crumble. But here's what I know for sure. The cost of continuing the performance is your peace. It's your freedom. It's your ability to look yourself in the mirror and say, that's me, and I'm proud of who I see. You will never find rest in a life where you constantly betray yourself to keep others comfortable. You will never find belonging while you're hiding. We think it's safer to keep the mask on. We think it protects us. But what it really does is build a wall around us so thick that even we can't get through. Being fake feels safe until it doesn't. Until you wake up and realize you've been living as a stranger in your own skin. And here's the quiet, liberating truth. You don't need to become someone else to be loved. You just need to become yourself, fully and without apology. The peace you're looking for, it doesn't come from finally perfecting your mask. It comes from finally being willing to take it off. There's a fear that sits so deep inside us, most of us never say it out loud. It's the fear that whispers, if I show them who I really am, they won't stay. It's the fear that the love we've built, the friendships we've formed, the communities we've found, they only exist because we've carefully managed what parts of ourselves they're allowed to see. I lived with that fear like it was my shadow, always there, always following me. I thought that if I let the walls down even a little, people would see that I wasn't as steady as I pretended to be, not as easygoing as I made myself seem, not as fine as I always claimed to be. So I learned to filter. I shared just enough to feel connected, but never so much that I would feel exposed. I let people see the curated version of me, the one who was agreeable, helpful, kind, funny, put together. I made sure to tuck away the parts I thought would scare people off. The anger, the sadness, the insecurity, the moments where I doubted myself, the parts where I was messy and complicated and human. Because I believed something very dangerous. They love me because I am what they need me to be, not because of who I actually am. Kept me from asking for what I really needed. It kept me from being known. But the loneliest place in the world isn't being by yourself. It's being surrounded by people and still feeling like no one sees you. Psychologists call this imposter syndrome, but it goes deeper than just professional spaces. It bleeds into our relationships. It tells us we are frauds in our own lives. It convinces us that love is something we must earn by being palatable, easy, perfect. And here's where the heartbreak comes in. When you perform long enough, you start to believe that the love you receive is conditional, because that's the only kind of love you've ever tested. You never gave people the chance to love the real you. You only let them love your edited version. So even when they say, I love you, it doesn't sink in. You wonder, would they still love me if they saw this part? Would they still stay if I stopped pretending? That's the silent war we fight inside ourselves. And the only way out is terrifying. It's to tell the truth anyway. It's to let people see the unpolished, unfiltered, fully human version of us. The version that's tender, the version that cries, the version that gets it wrong sometimes. It's to risk it all. To risk the rejection we've spent our lives trying to avoid, in order to finally feel what it's like to be loved without conditions. People who are meant for you will not leave when they see the truth. They will lean in, they will stay, they will hold you in the raw, in the middle, in the messy. And the people who do walk away, their leaving is not your failure. Their leaving is your freedom. Because love that demands you be less is not love. It's survival. and you are meant to live, not just survive. There's a quiet lie we grow up believing, that we need someone's permission to be fully ourselves. Maybe it started with the way we were taught to ask before speaking, to wait to be chosen, to seek approval before we acted. Maybe it was the way the world gave us gold stars when we were good, when we were agreeable, when we colored inside the lines. We learned early that stepping outside of what was expected made people uncomfortable. And so we started waiting for someone to say it was okay to want more, waiting for someone to say it was okay to take up space, waiting for someone to say it was okay to live loud, to dream big, to be fully, unapologetically ourselves. I wasted years waiting. I didn't realize that no one was coming to hand me that permission slip. I didn't understand that I had been holding the pen all along. The courage to live without permission is one of the hardest things we'll ever practice. It's not a one-time choice. It's not a clean, easy moment where you suddenly stop caring what people think. It's daily. It's shaky. It's uncomfortable. Because even when you decide to step into your own life, the echoes of those old fears still follow you. You hear them in your head. Is this okay? Am I allowed to do this? Will they leave if I choose this? Will they still love me if I become this? The need for permission runs so deep because it's tied to our deepest longing, belonging. We're wired to belong, and somewhere along the way, we confused belonging with compliance. We thought we had to earn our place by molding ourselves into what the world would find acceptable. But true belonging, the kind that soaks into your bones, the kind that doesn't shake when people misunderstand you, that only happens when you belong to yourself first. There's a concept in psychology called self-congruence. It's when your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions finally align. When you stop living two different stories, the one you tell the world and the one you tell yourself at 2 a.m. It's when you stop asking for the world's permission and you start giving it to yourself. But the truth is, living without permission will cost you. It might cost you certain relationships. It might cost you the approval of people you once thought you couldn't live without. It might cost you the comfort of fitting in. But what you gain your peace. You gain the ability to wake up in the morning and feel the weight lift because you are finally carrying your life, not the life others handed you. The courage to live without permission is not about rebellion. It's not about arrogance. It's not about being reckless with other people's hearts. It's about choosing to no longer abandon yourself, to be accepted. I remember the exact day I stopped asking, will they still love me if I do this? Will they still want me if I change? Will they still stay if I speak up? And the quiet answer I heard deep in my chest was this: even if they don't, I will still have me. And that has to be enough. No one can give you permission to be whole. No one can give you permission to live the life that burns in your gut. That's yours. It always was. You don't need the world's blessing to be who you are. You don't need anyone to sign off on your worth. You don't need a committee vote to start living out loud. The only permission you need is your own. And here's the most powerful thing I've learned. When you finally stop waiting, your life begins. May you be brave enough to disappoint the expectations of others in order to finally stop disappointing yourself.